Hello and welcome to the No Flipping Excuses Show, the only podcast in real estate investing that teaches what you need to know to find and flip deals right now. Wow. Break free the chains that are holding you back and join us on this episode with Jason Lucchese.
Hey, what's up? It's Jason Lucchese and welcome to the No Flipping Excuses Show. I am so excited that you are here joining us on this episode. We are diving in deep to helping you on this particular episode. This is like an episode I love talking about because today's guest is going to be going over some ways for you to lower the amount of taxes you pay or completely get rid of paying taxes altogether. So we're going to be having a great expert joining us on here today that me, as a real estate investor, I felt like this is something that you really need to have in your business. It's so detrimental to know what you can have as far as an advantage to be helping yourself as a real estate investor, as building that long-term wealth. So without further ado, I want you to perk up now. Make sure you have a notepad, a pen out, because my good friend, Mr. Bruce Mack, is with us, and he's going to be covering some awesome tactics and strategies that you could be using in your business, like I was saying, to lower your taxes or completely just get rid of it altogether. So, Bruce, how are you doing, my man?
I'm doing fantastic, and I'd like to first of all, thank you so much for allowing me to come on your podcast. We've known each other for a long period of time, and yep. This is great. This is great. Thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for coming on the show. You know, I always get excited when we have somebody, you know, like your caliber come on here and can discuss, you know, different strategies that we can use so that the good old Uncle Sam's not dipping into our pockets all the time. So Bruce, with that being said, for some folks that may not know you, can you tell a little bit about yourself? Like how long have you been in the industry, and you know, what's some of the things that you're working on today?
Absolutely. Well, let's start off and talk about my background going back decades. I'm a licensed financial advisor.
Okay.
And you can see a lot of gray hair, or not too much hair there. So you know
you got more than me, Bruce. You got more than me.
Well, yeah, but what's there is gray, and it's almost all gone. So I'm a licensed financial advisor and have been so for decades. An avid real estate investor. Actually, within a 3-year period of time, I bought, rehabbed, and flipped over 160 properties.
Nice.
I've been involved with over $92 million worth of real estate transactions, and I love helping people. I love helping people to save whenever possible, so that they have the ability to accumulate true wealth. And the other component is, how can I help people that I want to be involved with in any way, shape, or form with? How can I help people also asset protect themselves? Because You know what? You can save all you want. You can potentially reduce maybe taxes if you can, and or avoid taxes, which, by the way, the IRS says is completely legal. You don't being fraudulent, of course. Completely illegal on your taxes, but avoidance is not an illegal act. It is something that is part of the IRS handbook. But most importantly, I want to give people the ability to have a more thriving, stable, and secure life on an ongoing basis. Those are the core principles that I'm committed to and that I teach and like to impart unto others.
Oh man, I really like that. There's so many people, and you probably know this, Bruce, that get started in real estate and they really just want to have that 9-to-5 job there because that's their security. And I like that word that you use there for being secure. And a lot of folks, you know, with wholesaling especially, it's an up and down business, right? So you may close 8, 9, 10 deals one month, but the next month you may close 1 or 2 deals. So having that security of knowing that, you're protected is huge. So let's dive in and talk about, you've obviously closed, over 160 deals, which is awesome. My hat off to you. If I could find a hat that could fit my big fat head. And let's talk about some of the things that, you're doing and able to help people realize, how they can reduce taxes and use the loopholes. I don't know if it's loophole is the right word, but actual things from the IRS that, are 100% legal for us to use. How do we embark down this journey and kind of talk about different ways that we can be safe as investors and not having Uncle Sam always dip into our pockets?
Well, I want to talk about that word safe, because safe to me really is the precept and the real core principle that I want to talk about. The fact that there is a asset, or I should say that there are potential, because we can't make that guarantee, that there are potential tax advantages and tax saving strategies that are incorporated with what we're going to discuss, is a byproduct. But first and foremost, to me, it's all about asset protection. That is the core, that's the essence, because if you have your assets out there hanging and flapping in the wind,
right.
And we all know as real estate investors, we have this big, huge, target painted on our back.
For
and
sure.
The more we are visible, the more we are out there, the more we start doing flipping deals, the more people know that we have deep pockets and we are the ideal and prime target to go after.
Sure.
So how do we protect ourselves? Well, there are a number of different ways we can protect ourselves, and many of us have taken the first step, which I would call is the ground level or first floor of asset protection. To me, the first floor of asset protection is to get an entity. Now that could be a C, but you have double taxation. That could be an S, not really the greatest, because you do need to pay yourself a salary after a couple of years.
Right.
Or it could be an LLC. That today is the preferred method for real estate investors to hold their entities in, again, as a ground floor or rudimentary way of getting started with asset protection. But one of the things we find is that when we have a C, an S, or an LLC, we're chatteled with fees. We're chatteled with annual fees. If you're in California, it's over $800 to the franchise tax boards. Thank you very much. And we're also chatteled with the responsibility to keep our corporate governance up. And unfortunately, I've seen all too many entities that on an ongoing basis, they are completely pierceable because they are not up to date. They have not done the corporate governance. They haven't had the meetings, the documentation, the this, the that, the different things that they need to do, the responsibilities that you have.
Right.
Therefore, they may have the entity, but for all intent purposes, they have nothing. And that, again, in and of itself is a problem. Another huge cost to having the LLCs or Cs or an S is the requirement to file taxes on those, and the usual tax return for a business tax return of this sort is $1,500. So in the case of California, let's just say, you're looking at $1,500, you're looking at $800, you're looking at a $2,300 price tag just to keep that puppy going on an annualized basis. Take that times 10 years and goodbye, down to you-know-what, $23,000.
Yeah.
Now, I really don't like that plan because that gets to be a financial burden along with all of the responsibilities that you have to exercise to keep the thing valid in the first place.
Right.
Then let's talk about what I would call the solution. And there is a solution that's out there that is so much stronger that it's amazing. Now, before I talk about the solution, I should back up. Many of us have heard about the term pierceable. The piercing what? Piercing the corporate veil.
Right.
How can it be pierced? And it can be pierced a number of ways. It can be pierced because they say it's a closely held corporation and it's you just masquerading as you. It can be pierced because of the corporate governance that we were talking about not being kept up. It can be pierced because of this. It could be pierced because of that. Excuse me. But make no mistake, entities, LLCs, Cs, and S's can be, have been, and do have, unfortunately, the reputation of getting pierced and then the assets getting distributed to the creditors in the event that there is a suit. However, again, it's better than nothing. So what's the solution? What's the answer? How do we stop this? Well, the simple solution is to get a titanium asset protection program. And that titanium asset protection program, the solution is a trust. Trusts have stood the test of time. They've been around since the 1500s. And actually, we come to find that the Constitution was written and precepted, it is a trust, and was precepted on European law, where trusts began way back when.
Wow, interesting.
Now, there are a number of different types of trust. Heck, I've got a list right here. There's 37 different types of trusts that are out there, anywhere from non-grantor to grantor to testamentary, minors trust, beneficial trust, blind trust, oh my gosh, shelter trust, marital trust, Q-tip trust, qualified residential trust, generational skipping trust. I think you get the point. I can go on ad nauseum. I'm not going to.
Now, quick question for you, Bruce.
There are a lot of different types of trusts out there. Sorry, go ahead.
So, not to interrupt you, but for me operating an LLC in Indiana, it's definitely not as expensive as if I were operating in California. Like, I think we pay a biannual thing for our LLC. It's only like $50-$60. We're really lucky in the state of Indiana.
You're lucky.
And I've heard some stories. California is kind of like its own country almost with some of their things. But for some folks out there that are wondering, it's not that across the board. I just wanted to kind of make
various states. Yeah. Some of them, I couldn't agree with you more. That's a great point. Though that $1,500 that you're going to be paying for a business return is pretty static.
Right.
That's pretty usual. Some of the fees are as low as $40. Some of them are several $100s or $500 or what have you.
Right.
California is at the top of the heap at $800. So I will say that. However, sometimes when people have holdings in multiple states, they may live in Illinois and they're doing business in California, then they may have a requirement to file for two different LLCs. So again, that can double up things and also make the reporting requirements in terms of taxation that much more costly. So
gotcha.
I was just trying, and I didn't mean to paint it with a broad brush.
Oh, no, you're fine. You're fine.
Point.
Yeah, you're fine, Bruce.
Okay, so I got involved with trusts over 20 years ago as a licensed financial advisor. We might have heard about what's called a living trust.
Yeah.
And a living trust is absolutely needed, because if you die and you don't have a living trust, not likely, you're going to go to probate. And now a portion of that of your estate is also going to go to the trustees. There's usually two who administer it. Not a pretty sight. The people that you've got, that you made your bequeathments to, could be held up for years, creating bitter interfamiliar feuds. It's ugly. But there are some good things that could come of this, because you get a medical power of directive. You can put down on paper who you want to have your beneficiaries be, and it's certainly better than having a will, because it does cover a lot of these types of issues of what happens to my legacy, who gets what.
Right.
But then I was able to find out, when I became a real estate investor, about land trusts. and the beauty of land trusts. And I ascribed to, once I found out about land trusts, to putting properties into a land trust because it was a more protective mechanism than an LLC. And in as much as the land trust also provides for some anonymity and flexibility. And if you're doing deals where you're doing subject to deals, you don't have to fall prey to the Garden Saint Germain Act of potentially recording deeds and this and that and so on and so forth. Again, a real positive.
Sure.
And then having those land trusts owned by personal property trusts, meaning now you have to get through 2 doors to get to the person. But can you get through those doors? Yes, they are doors. I would call them, say, wooden doors. Again, maybe there's wood there. You could classify them as wooden doors with locks on them, but we all know that we can crash through a wooden door with a lock on it because it's not like a titanium vault.
Right.
Recently, after a 20-year quest, I was able to find what I would call the holy grail of trusts, and that trust, because of some of the precepts, specifically because it's an irrevocable trust, and it's a spendthrift trust, and it's a non-grantor trust, this discretionary trust, and the complex trust all together.
Oh, wow.
It has the most tensile strength, the most ironclad, the titanium vault of trusts that's out there. And it provides the highest level of asset protection. No court, government agency, or anybody can turn one of these trusts over. Moreover, I can say that divorce, because it's a suit, alimony, child support, eminent domain. Think about the fact that if you have a property that's in the path of what supposedly might be called progress, if you have a property that's in the path of progress, they can come in, swoop in, take your property, give you what they want, you're done. You're out. Right?
Right.
Not even subject to eminent domain. You could hold out if there's a property that you have that's in this type of trust, you can hold off for your price, not their price.
Oh, wow.
So the notion that you are literally lien proof and suit proof, or not suit proof, lien proof and judgment proof is a absolute fact. Now, I can't say that you're not going to get sued, but I can tell you that if you are sued, we've seen in many cases when the opposing counsel is presented with the fact that the client has a spendthrift irrevocable trust that has non-grantor status, and there's 91,000 lawsuits, business lawsuits on an annualized basis. The average cost is $74,000 for these suits.
Wow.
Not cheap if you get hit with one of these puppies. And there's you stand a 33% chance, a 1 in 3 shot of getting sued during your lifetime. Again, not good odds. But when an opposing counsel is usually on a retainer or usually on a contingency rather than a retainer, where they're going to get 30, 40, maybe 50% of the proceeds. So they've got their skin in the game. When they hear that there's an irrevocable spendthrift trust that's a non-grantor, they close up shop, they leave, and that can often happen in discovery. So I'm not here to say that you're not going to get sued. Can't stop that, but I can tell you that the assets that you put into one of our trusts are absolutely locked tight.
So,
and this is now over a 30-year period of time I've been that these trusts have been in existence. There's over 30,000 of these, and these trusts come with a registered, not just the kind of copyright when we all copyright stuff and we put C on the page. Yeah,
right.
It's copywritten, or the intent to copyright covers you from potential poachers. These have a registered copyright, meaning they went to the Copyright Office of the United States, and frankly, when they didn't know what to make of the body of work, the Copyright Office called up the IRS to say, hey, come on over here, let's check this, would you please check this out? Can we even do a copyright? Not only did they say yes, the field manager back then in 1999 ended up getting one of these trusts for himself.
Oh, wow. Wow. So let me ask you this, Bruce. Is there any way, if you have one of these trusts and the judge, does a court order to find out who the actual owner is, what is it to say that the trustee won't give up who the actual owners are behind the trust?
Well, that's a great question. There's what's called grantor and non-grantor. And when you have a grantor status, you really have nothing more than the protection of a living trust, which is no asset protection at all.
Right.
And many of the trusts that are out there are called non-grantor. But when you peel back the layers of the onion, 99.999% of the trusts that are out there are grantor trusts, irrespective of the fact. And here's how it happens. And this cuts to the core of your question.
Yeah.
When the trust is created, the lawyer who creates the trust gets them an EIN number. And when they get that EIN number, it's tied to their social security number.
Right.
Okay. So now you've got a digital fingerprint which glues the person to the trust. Right. Gotcha. So you get hauled into court, and they say, the litigator gets up there, he's like a dog on a bone, and he's saying, so I understand that this trust, has an EIN number. Could you repeat that EIN number, or are you aware of what the EIN number? And if you're not, that's okay. This is the EIN number, and holds that up. And the defendant says yes. And that EIN number is tied to social security number, blah, 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 blah. And the guy says, and he says yes. And then the litigator says, and that I understand is your social security number. Is that not? And they say, yes, they're sunk. Because they're obviously tied. It is a grantor. It is a grantor trust.
Gotcha.
So one of the ways that we avoid that, which also avoids the alter ego attempt, if you will, of piercing, is that we have what's called an original settler. So the original settler, which could be a family member, could be somebody on my staff. I mean, there's a number of ways that we accomplish this. The
Sure.
original settler is the one who creates the instrument, and within the first 12 to 24 hours, they, for $10 and due and valuable consideration, they sell the trust to the new person.
Gotcha.
And therefore, it's an arm's length transaction, taking exactly what you said out of the equation. The one question that remains that people sometimes come up with, they have this question mark. My gosh, I put my houses, my planes, my trains, and my automobiles into the trust, and during that 12 to 24 hours, Uncle Brucey could run off to who knows where and have himself a major party. Not the case, guys. Nothing of your material value is transferred until you have ownership. So let me take that potential and that concern out of the equation.
No, that's great. That's great. And then, Bruce, from a tax standpoint, what are we able to do as far as, being able to mitigate or reduce our taxes to where we could get those, at a level that, it's not a gigantic percentage that's being taken away on our transactions?
Well, this is one of the reasons that I am so excited about these trusts, because not only do you have bulletproof asset protection that is going to be there for you, but there is a component, 643, the IRS code, has been woven into the fabric of our spendthrift trusts, in the spendthrift component of this, and it's sheer genius how this was done. Fact is that all income that comes into corpus that is short-term or long-term capital gains and or ordinary income, K-1 income, so on and so forth, can be deferred. Now, I'm not talking about W-2 income, and I'm certainly not talking about property taxes. I'm pretty much talking about everything else. And when I talk about deferred, we normally think of deferred when we talk about self-directed. So therefore, by 70.5, we have to start taking that. And the idea being that we're going to be a lower tax basis, and isn't that great? So we're not going to get stung so much. No,
Right.
the way that the trusts were written is that they are deferred until 21 years after the last beneficiary's ancestors, or I should say their kin, their relatives, die.
Okay.
So this potentially can be 200, 300, 400 years from now. So the tax deferral capability that is allowed for by the IRS because of the rules and regulations of these types of trusts
Yep.
is rock solid. And as you know, we have roughly 30,000 of these puppies out there since 1999. And this is a cogent, viable, and again, legitimate tax avoidance strategy that works and works extremely well and has saved many of our clients countless amounts of dollars. Again, I cannot say that or ascribe to the fact that we can for you, but if you have short-term or long-term capital gains, ordinary income, 1099 income, K-1 income, these types of income, we definitely can have a sidebar discussion about that as along with the asset protection that you absolutely can enjoy with the types of trusts that we're talking about.
No, that's great. This
is huge.
That is huge. It's really, really huge. It's exciting information. And Bruce, what is a really good way for people to reach out to you and find more about this? Because this is a game changer for folks that, really treat their business as a business and not a hobby. This is something that folks definitely do need to take full advantage of. What would be a great way for them to reach out to you, Bruce?
Well, certainly a good way is to jump on our website. It's a little bit longer, so I'll tell it to you slowly. It's Platinum Financing Group, PlatinumFinancingGroup.com. And there's a contact us page. Please fill that out. And we will respond and get you an appointment. And then with an appointment, we can discuss your specific situation and go forward from there, should you wish to. Because I love to talk to people, I can reservedly also give you, please do not blow it up. Again, I'm going to say, please do not blow it up. But I'll give you my phone number as well. My direct contact line is 702-371-2345. Again, that's 702-371-2345. Be mindful that I'm on the Pacific Coast. I'm in the Los Angeles area, right here in LA. So don't be calling at 3 a.m. in the morning, please, I beg you, though the phone will invariably be off. But generally, I'm in the office from 9 o'clock in the morning till 8, 9, 10 o'clock at night, 5 nights a week, sometimes 6 nights a week. And I want to hear from you. I want to hear about your situation and see how we can't afford to get you the proper protection that you need and the relief that you also can be getting.
No, that's awesome, Bruce, and I appreciate you sharing that. So it's PlatinumFinancialGroup.com?
Well, you know what? And I want you to know something that's funny because it's Platinum Financing
Okay,
Group.
I screwed it up.
However, no, wait a minute. You're right. Because recently we had waited for years to get Platinum Financial Group, and we bought the domain.
Okay.
So if people put in Platinum Financial Group, they will have a domain forwarder, and they'll take them right to Platinum Financing Group. So
Nice.
either way, they're good.
Nice. Okay, cool. So that's Bruce's website, Platinum Financing Group, and then if you put in financial, it'll forward over to the right website. So Bruce, before we go ahead and wrap it up, two things I want to ask you. What is a great book that you would recommend that you've recently read? Could be a business book, entrepreneur book, motivation book. What's a good book that you've read that you would like to share with folks?
Wow, you're putting me on the spot. I haven't read a good book in so gosh darn long. I'm embarrassed to admit it. And yesterday I was on the phone with a guy, and in the background he had these walls. As you can see, there are no good books, and I don't have my library in back of me because it doesn't exist. And his was filled with books. The 1 Minute Manager is always a good staple. I ascribe to that. For you guys who have micro businesses or maybe have one or a couple of different assistants that are working for you, it's a great book, and it will absolutely make you a better manager and be able to give you the ability to give good to exercise great delegation. That is
a really good book. Second question that I have for you: is there any parting words that you would like to leave for our listeners?
Yes, twofold. Number one, you're a real estate investor. You've got the target painted on your back. The key reason that you want to hear more about what we do is because we can protect your assets. Secondarily, invariably, because the types of transactions that you're involved in, it's quite likely that we can work with you and help you out with potential tax mitigations strategies and savings that are there for you within our type of specific trust and our specific trust. Okay. And lastly, I want to thank you, Jason, because without you inviting me onto your webinar, I wouldn't have had the platform to give the people that are listening and or watching this the opportunity to hear about what it is that we were talking about today.
No, that's awesome. Thanks, Bruce. And for those of you that are listening right now, if you enjoyed the information that Bruce talked about, especially with reducing or possibly eliminating your taxes, make sure that you leave us a 5-star review. That's going to help us out a lot with getting this information out to the right people that need this. So if you found this to be beneficial, make sure you share it with others. When you leave that 5-star review, you leave that comment that really helps us out. So only leave that if you really felt like we deserved it. And if you need to reach out to us, contact us by support@jasonluchesi.com. And that is spelled LUCCHESI.com. Again, that's support@jasonluchesi.com. But other than that, thank you so much to Bruce for being on here. Really, really appreciate you taking time to be on here. And for those of you that are listening, thank you so much for being a subscriber. Thank you for showing up each and every week. With that being said, go out there and make it an outstanding day and go flip a house. Talk to you later. Take care. Bye now.